Your body is on fire right now. Not the kind of fire you feel. Not a fever, not a wound, not pain you can point to. A different kind. Slow, invisible, constant, a fire that has been burning for years, possibly decades, without producing a single symptom you would recognize as inflammation. And if you are over 60, your standard blood tests have almost certainly never measured it. Scientists have a name for it: Inflammaging. A compound word, inflammation plus aging, coined in the year 2000 by Italian researcher Claudio Franceschi, who spent decades studying why some people age slowly and others age fast. His conclusion, and the conclusion of hundreds of researchers who have built on his work in the 25 years since, is that chronic low-grade inflammation is not a side effect of aging. It is the engine of aging. It is the mechanism by which your body ages faster than it needs to. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what inflammaging is, how to know if you have it, and the dietary pattern that over 30 randomized controlled trials have consistently shown reduces the inflammatory markers driving it. Think about what inflammation is supposed to do. It is your immune system's emergency response. Something goes wrong: a cut, an infection, a virus, and your immune system floods the area with inflammatory chemicals. They destroy the threat. They start repair. And then they stand down. That is acute inflammation. It is essential. It is what keeps you alive. But inflammaging is something different entirely. Inflammaging is what happens when that emergency response never fully stands down. Imagine leaving a fire burning in a room in your house. Not a large fire, a small one. A candle, really, you can barely smell it. The smoke detector never goes off. But over years, over decades, that small, constant heat is slowly damaging everything in the room. The walls, the furniture, the ceiling, the air. That is inflammaging. A fire so small you cannot feel it, but large enough, over time, to degrade everything it touches. And it touches everything. Let me be specific, because this is where the research becomes very direct about what you may already be experiencing. A 2025 bibliometric analysis published in Frontiers in Aging, reviewing 20 years of inflammaging research across thousands of studies, identified the conditions most consistently linked to elevated chronic inflammatory markers in aging adults. Cardiovascular disease. Inflammaging persistently elevates CRP and IL-6, which damage the inner walls of arteries, promote plaque formation, and drive atherosclerosis. The same low-grade fire that is burning in your tissues is burning in your blood vessels. Cognitive decline. The same IL-1 beta and TNF-alpha we discussed across the previous 4 videos in this series, the SASP chemicals from zombie cells. The inflammatory molecules blocking vagal nerve signals to the hippocampus, those are markers of inflammaging. They are not separate phenomena. They are the same fire reaching the brain. Sarcopenia, that is the medical term for age-related muscle loss. Research published in a 2018 review on the sources of chronic inflammation in aging found that IL-6 levels directly weaken the anabolic signaling cascade that maintains muscle mass. When IL-6 is chronically elevated, your muscles receive fewer signals to stay strong. This is why the fatigue and weakness most people attribute to simply getting older is often, in part, a direct downstream effect of inflammation. Type 2 diabetes risk. Chronic low-grade inflammation impairs insulin sensitivity, driving the metabolic dysfunction that precedes and accompanies diabetes. Frailty and functional decline. Research involving thousands of older adults has found that IL-6 and CRP levels are among the best predictors of physical and cognitive performance and mortality risk in people over 65. Not cholesterol. Not blood pressure alone. Inflammation. One fire. Many rooms. Here is the part that matters most for what you do after this video. Your standard annual blood test almost certainly does not measure inflammaging. A standard CRP test measures acute inflammation, the kind from an infection or an injury, where levels reach 10 milligrams per liter or more. That test will come back normal for nearly everyone experiencing chronic low-grade inflammation, because the levels involved are far lower. What you want is something called a high-sensitivity CRP test, hs-CRP. This test can detect concentrations as low as 0.1 milligrams per liter. From a longevity perspective, research consistently shows that levels below 0.5 milligrams per liter are associated with the lowest risk of age-related disease. Levels between 1 and 3 are considered elevated. Above 3 indicates high cardiovascular and metabolic risk. Most people have never had this test. Most people do not know to ask for it. And most people who are quietly experiencing inflammaging feel perfectly fine right up until one of the conditions it has been driving for decades becomes impossible to ignore. The good news is that hs-CRP is a simple, inexpensive blood test. You can ask your doctor to add it at your next routine visit. A single number can tell you whether the fire is burning and how hot it is. But you do not need to wait for the test results to start reducing the fire, because the dietary evidence for doing that is some of the strongest in nutritional science. Before I show you the 5 foods, I want to tell you about a woman I will call Patricia. Patricia is 71. She had been going to her doctor every year for a decade. Cholesterol normal. Blood pressure borderline but managed. Blood sugar fine. She was told she was doing well for her age. Patricia had her hs-CRP measured for the first time after watching a video in this series. Her result was 4.8 milligrams per liter. Significantly elevated. Her doctor had never ordered the test. Patricia made specific changes to her diet over 12 weeks. Diet was the only variable she changed. 12 weeks later, her hs-CRP had dropped to 1.1. I cannot promise you Patricia's result. Every person is different, and none of this replaces medical care from your physician. Please always speak with your doctor before changing your health routine. But what Patricia changed is exactly what the research consistently shows reduces inflammaging markers, and every one of those changes is at a grocery store. I want to give you 5 specific foods. But first, one sentence of context that changes how you should weigh what I'm about to tell you. The evidence for what you are about to hear is different from what we covered in the last 2 videos. The senolytic research on zombie cells was primarily animal studies with early human trials. What I am showing you today is meta-analyses of randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of nutritional science. These are not associations or promising signals. They are controlled experiments replicated across dozens of studies involving thousands of human participants. The dietary pattern with the most consistent, highest quality evidence for reducing chronic inflammatory markers in adults is the Mediterranean diet. A 2025 meta-analysis published in Nutrition Reviews analyzing 33 randomized controlled trials involving 3,476 participants found significant reductions in hs-CRP, IL-6, and IL-17 in adults following a Mediterranean-style diet compared to control diets. The 5 foods are the core pillars of that pattern, each with specific, documented mechanisms for reducing the exact inflammatory markers that drive aging. Food number 1, fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring are the richest dietary sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. An umbrella meta-analysis of 32 separate meta-analyses published in Science Direct in 2022 found that omega-3 supplementation significantly reduced CRP, IL-6, and TNF-alpha across a wide range of adult populations and health conditions. A 2024 meta-analysis of 33 clinical trials involving approximately 2,000 participants found that omega-3 supplementation significantly reduced IL-6 and TNF-alpha, with directional benefits for CRP. The mechanism: EPA and DA are incorporated into cell membranes throughout the body. From there, they are converted into compounds called resolvins and protectins molecules that actively resolve inflammation rather than simply blocking it. They also inhibit NF-κB, a master switch for inflammatory gene expression. Less NF-κB activity means less production of IL-6, IL-1 beta, and TNF-alpha. 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week is the evidence-supported target. For those who do not eat fish, algae-based omega-3 supplements provide EPA and DA from the same source fish use. Food number 2. Extra virgin olive oil. This one has appeared in every video in this series, and that is not a coincidence. A meta-analysis of 15 clinical trials involving 2,477 adults published in Nutrition and Metabolism in 2025 found that an olive oil-enriched Mediterranean diet significantly reduced both IL-6 and hs-CRP compared to control diets. The 2 key compounds are oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that reduces the activity of NF-κB and lowers the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and oleocanthal, which inhibits the same COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes targeted by ibuprofen without the gastrointestinal side effects of chronic NSAID use. 2 tablespoons daily. The key is extra virgin refined olive oils lose most of the oleocanthal and polyphenol content in processing. Look for cold-pressed, dark-bottled, with a harvest date on the label. Food number 3. Dark leafy greens. Spinach, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard are dense sources of vitamin K, folate, and magnesium, all of which independently regulate inflammatory signaling pathways. Vitamin K in particular has received significant research attention. A 2024 review found that vitamin K activates matrix GLA protein, which inhibits vascular calcification, one of the downstream consequences of chronic arterial inflammation. People with low vitamin K status consistently show higher CRP levels. The fiber content in leafy greens is also directly relevant. Dietary fiber is fermented by gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which suppresses NF-κB activity in immune cells and reduces systemic inflammatory output. Every gram of soluble fiber consumed is a direct input into the anti-inflammatory pathway. 1 to 2 cups of dark leafy greens daily. Cooked or raw both count. Cooking spinach and kale actually increases the bioavailability of some nutrients by breaking down the cell wall. Food number 4. Turmeric, always paired with black pepper. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in nutritional science. A review published in Nutrients in 2024, evaluating 54 separate meta-analyses of randomized controlled trials, found that curcumin intake significantly reduced CRP in 7 of 10 meta-analyses and significantly reduced IL-6 in 5 of 8 meta-analyses. The mechanism: curcumin directly inhibits NF-κB and reduces the production of COX-2, the same enzyme involved in the prostaglandin pathway that drives inflammatory pain and tissue damage. The critical caveat: curcumin has very low bioavailability on its own. The compound is absorbed poorly from the digestive tract, but piperine, the active compound in black pepper, has been shown to increase curcumin bioavailability by up to 2.000% by inhibiting the enzyme that breaks it down. Half a teaspoon of turmeric with a pinch of black pepper, added to food, tea, or a warm drink with a small amount of fat, which further improves absorption. This is not a supplement recommendation, it is a consistent daily food habit that the research consistently supports. Food number 5. Berries and walnuts. These 2 foods address inflammaging through different but complementary mechanisms, and the research consistently places them together in the most effective anti-inflammatory dietary patterns. Berries: blueberries, strawberries, Blackberries are among the richest dietary sources of polyphenols and anthocyanins, which activate NRF2 pathways and directly suppress the production of IL-6 and TNF-alpha. We covered this in the last video, in the context of zombie cell SASP reduction. The same mechanism applies directly to inflammaging. Less SASP output means lower systemic inflammatory burden. Walnuts are the only tree nut with a significant content of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids in the form of ALA. While ALA converts to EPA and DA less efficiently than direct fish sources, walnuts also contain ellagic acid, a polyphenol that is converted by gut bacteria into urolithins, which have been shown to reduce NF-κB activity and lower CRP. A 2024 review of walnut consumption and inflammatory markers found consistent associations between regular walnut intake and lower CRP and IL-6 in older adults. A half cup of mixed berries and a small handful of walnuts, about 28 grams daily. I want to step back for a moment and show you what this series has been building. We began with the gut microbiome and memory loss, then the vagus nerve, then the Stanford study on forgetting, then zombie cells and the SASP. In every video, the same fire appeared: IL-6, IL-1 beta, TNF-alpha, CRP. These are not 5 separate health problems requiring 5 separate interventions. Inflammaging is the common thread. It is the background fire that every other mechanism in this series is either contributing to or being damaged by. The gut bacteria disrupting your memory pathway are doing it partly through inflammaging. The zombie cells damaging your joints are doing it entirely through inflammaging. The weakened vagus nerve signal is weakened, in part, because of the inflammatory load carried by the neurons that run it, and the dietary pattern that reduces inflammaging fatty fish, extra virgin olive oil, leafy greens. Turmeric with black pepper, berries and walnuts is also the dietary pattern that supports your gut microbiome, quiets SASP signaling, protects vagal neurons, and reduces the production of the exact chemicals disrupting your memory. This is not a collection of separate tips. It is one strategy with one target. The fire. Here is what I want you to leave with. You are not aging because time is passing. You are aging, in part, because a slow, invisible fire has been burning in your body, and nobody has ever measured it, named it, or shown you where the extinguisher is. The fire has a name now. Inflammaging. It has a measurable marker. hs-CRP. It has a dietary response that 33 randomized controlled trials support consistently. And it has foods that are available at any grocery store, at any budget, starting today. So here is your one action. Add fatty fish to one meal this week. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, any of them. One meal. That is your first step. One meal does not change decades overnight. But it changes the direction. And direction is everything. You are not at the mercy of a fire you cannot feel. You are in charge of a body that responds to what you feed it. And that changes everything. Quick recap. Inflammaging is a chronic, low-grade inflammatory state that develops with age, driven by zombie cell SASP output, gut dysbiosis, mitochondrial damage, and immune dysregulation. It is measured by hs-CRP and IL-6, not standard CRP, and most people have never had these tests. It drives cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, muscle loss, insulin resistance, and frailty. 5 dietary pillars with the strongest evidence for reducing inflammaging markers: fatty fish for EPA and DA, which resolve inflammation at the cellular level. Extra virgin olive oil for oleic acid and oleocanthal. Dark leafy greens for vitamin K, folate, and fiber-derived butyrate. Turmeric with black pepper for curcumin's NF-κB inhibition. Berries and walnuts for polyphenols, anthocyanins, and ALA. Ask your doctor for an hs-CRP test at your next routine visit. It is inexpensive. It is simple. And the number it gives you is one of the most informative measures of how fast your body is biologically aging. Next video, we are going to look at the cellular engine that powers everything we have discussed across this entire series. We have covered the gut, the nerve, the zombie cells, and the fire. Next, why your mitochondria produce less energy after 60 than they did at 30, and why that single decline amplifies every other aging mechanism in this series. You have heard the word. You associate it with high school biology. But the mitochondria story after 60 is not what your teacher described, and the foods that restore them are not the ones you would expect. That video is next. Subscribe button is just below. If someone in your life has been told that inflammation is just part of getting older, please share this series. The fire has a name. And it can be turned down. Always speak with your doctor before making changes to your diet or health routine. Everything here is for educational purposes only. Take care of yourself. And I will see you in the next one.